What's going on, guys? Today we're going to install a Hot Licks exhaust flame throwing kit, the basic version, on this 2018 Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat. So I'm going to kind of give you all a little rundown and explain how I installed it. That way it's easier for y'all to go ahead and go through it as well. So let's get into it. Okay, so we already did the whole install, and I'm just going to kind of give y'all a walkthrough of what we did so it goes a little bit faster. So first off, we had the car up on the lift to make it a little bit easier. However, if you have a jack, you can actually just jack up the back end so that you can get underneath. So it's not too terrible. You could do it at home. So the first thing is you're going to measure 8 inches from the very tippy tip of your exhaust tip right here. So 8 inches from here to where you're going to drill out your hole. So you can see where we had it marked. You're going to use a 9/16 drill bit and drill out that hole. And then what I used was I put some tape on a box end wrench and put the wrench in here to hold the nut that is on the inside. So that way you can hold the wrench like this. And then I used orange Loctite. I used orange so that eventually if you had to change the spark plug, then you can get it back out, rather than red Loctite. But it doesn't have a lock washer or anything, so that's what we did. You can also weld the nut on the outside if you so choose. We just thought for purposes it'd be easier just to do it this way. So we held the wrench in here, and then we tightened this spark plug in here so that it mounts into the side of your exhaust right here. So once we had the spark plugs mounted and tightened down really, really good, then we started the module install in the trunk. So now you're going to go into the trunk here. We're going to lift up the battery kind of box going up here. And down here, it's way down here. This is where we drilled out the holes for our 2 leads. These are the 2 leads that are going to either side that are running to the spark plugs. We made sure that we used a correct size grommet that'll fit on here. And then we put them in there so that we have a nice sealed edge so you don't have hard edges rubbing onto these leads. So you want to make sure you use a grommet to have that rubber in between there. And then this box is actually just velcroed in. So we had like some adhesive velcro, so we can actually just take this box up and out, so that way it's secured without having too much rattle. The black wire here is where you're gonna go, and I use this ground right here to the chassis. So I put my little clip on there and grounded it right here to this really nice ground that's going here. Now this red wire, that one is what's going to go to your switch. And what we did here was we ran it up underneath here into this wiring harness that goes up into the back seat and over, which I'll get to that later. But now let me show y'all what we did on the spark plug bungs down below. Alright, so this side is the driver's side. We have our lead ran to the driver's side here. These are your little spark plug bungs that you're going to be using. And the side that clips in, it just pushes right on. And this side, before you clip that in, this side you're going to screw clockwise up into that lead, and then it was just taped off here so that moisture doesn't get in there. And then once you have that taped off, then you can just push this onto the spark plug. Make sure you zip tie all that up really well and up and away from the exhaust so that it doesn't melt and have that melted through there. So we had it kind of ran back here because back there is where it comes out at, and we followed a harness that goes over here and we zip tied it all up and through here so that it's secured. So I showed where that red wire kind of goes up underneath that trunk that's back here. So we kind of have it coming up and then snaking it over to the left side that's going on the driver's side. Alright, so we had the back seat folded down, and I used my red wire and we ran it right in between here underneath this panel, all up under here and then through here, and you'll see it poking out, boop, right there. So all of this is nice and secure, all underneath here and underneath this back seat. So that way it's secured right here. And keep in mind, these are where your trim panels are going to go back in, so you don't want to cover those holes here. So all of these you want to keep away from here. And then over here I started bringing it this way, so it comes on the inside here and then over. And then on this side of the clip I had it parked underneath here, coming under here, and then up to there. So this is where I'm going to have it. I have it mounted in this area, I use a 1/2-inch size drill bit to be able to screw that in, and I'm going to show y'all under the hood what the wiring looks like on that side. Okay, so moving under the hood for step number 7, that's when you are wanting to tap into your ignition coil wire. So you want the main primary wire that goes into the fuse box that also leads for the front one that communicates to all of your ignition coils. So that wire is going to be the brown with the yellow stripe, and this is a little tidbit I want to share with y'all because we found it easier after the fact. So the first step we did was we tried to splice into the harness here and trying to look for it, but the problem was that you have to now try to push all these wires apart to try to find it. So the whole fishing expedition was just way too much work. So we found a different video actually that showed that they had picked up the fuse box PDC here and then separated it out. So I'm going to kind of show y'all what we did here. First off, we disconnected the negative battery terminal that was in the trunk. So you want to disconnect the safety sensor first, disconnect the negative cable, that way you don't have sparks flying and everything. Then come back over here. This is a 13mm that we took off here and here so that we had these free. And then you have 4 main clips to actually pull the whole box off of the mounting bracket. That would be this side one here. There's one in the front, one on the other side, and then one on this side. So you have the 4 main clips to be able to pick it up off of this mounting bracket here. Now, once you get it down out of the mounting, this is the back cover for it. So these are all these little clips all the way around. So the little ones, this one, that one, and all the way around. Once you have those popped off, make sure you don't break these when you're prying on them. Be very gentle, because being in the engine bay, they are fragile from being hot. So then, let me bring the light over here so y'all can see a little better. Now you can see all of your wires that we have going on in here. So this is the brown and yellow one. Let me try to get this to a point where I can show y'all. There we go. Alright, so I did, in your kit, the Hot Licks exhaust kit, you have gray wires. I wanted to make my life a little bit easier, so I added a black one too. That way I know which one is what. So on my schematics, I have the gray one. That's going to the fuse box side. And then the black one is going to the coil side. So you want to make sure you have differentiated which one is going where, because that's going to depend on which one hooks up to the top and bottom part of your 3-prong switch. So be sure that you have 2 different colors so that's easier for y'all to know which one does what. Otherwise you might have them accidentally swapped. So that's what we did here. And then I also put loom on it so that it's protected, because I don't want bare wires. Even though yes, these are all bare wires, once they come out of this box, they are already loomed. So I did pre-loom on this one, and that way it's protected. So going through here, we fished it down here. It's coming out the bottom where the rest of the ponytail is back there. And now it's coming out over here. So this is where we fished it out from, and it's running right alongside this main harness. So I had already cut through that, so we're at the process now of re-taping over that with some different type of tape. It's like the harness tape that they have. So we're gonna re-tape where we had cut through, and then once we have that all taped off and secured, then we will now run our lead harness under the dash into the switch. So that's what we're at right now. Okay, so now we have everything kind of put back together and clipped back on. We put the bottom cover, clipped it back on, and then pushed all this back down into its holding brace. We reconnected our disconnected leads here, and then starting up here, we have it ran from this bottom piece coming up here, and then we actually utilized the holes that they had already pre-drilled back there and used like the little push zip ties that are going through here. Now when you get to this end, we popped out this cover there. Okay, so we popped out that cover so we had access to it, because we're gonna have it come down, and there is a grommet for your harness that goes through into the cab. So that's where you want to poke through, and we ran it right alongside that main harness. So we did a little slit in there, ran it through there. So it's kind of difficult to get through. So that's why we try to fish through a lead line so that we would able to pull it all the way through, because that one's kind of stiff and stuff. So once you had it all the way through there, I kind of zip tied it up with the hood latch, the hood release latch down here. That way it's easier to have a nice like solid area to attach to until it met here with our red wire. Once we're here, then I'm going to show y'all up here. Once we kind of get it all up here in the back, I have it up and over this brace that is like this structure brace right here and zip tied together. From there, you install your switch. You can have it as deep or as shallow as you want it to go. And then you're going to have your gray wire. Technically in your schematic it's the bottom switch, but this one I have going the opposite direction. So you just want to make sure that you have the gray switch that is the fuse box side of that brown and yellow wire on this very bottom piece. Technically in this case the top. Your red one is always going to be in the middle, and then your opposite one that's going to your ignition coils is, I use a black wire, and that's on the other side of that. So once you have that all together, then you can run your tests, which I'll kind of show you how to do that now. Okay, so our first test is we're going to turn the key to run without starting the engine. And what we're going to be looking for is when you push the button, the red button that you installed on your switch, you want to check to make sure your spark plugs within the exhaust pipe are sparking. So that's what we're going to check first. All right, turn it to run and push the button. There you go. Check this passenger side, push the button. Beautiful. All right, so we got sparks, so that's always good. So your second test is you're going to start the engine, and then as you hold the button down, your engine should actually turn completely off. That's how you know it's actually wired correctly. Otherwise, you'll have to go back and do some 12-volt testing, make sure your ground is good and all that. So as long as your engine actually shuts completely off while you're holding it, then you're good to go. So we're gonna do that now. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and start it. So we're gonna push in the brake, start it. Now you gotta hold in the button. Beautiful. And that's exactly what we want, so we know it's wired correctly.